welcome to the Extra Feature Interview Show. Please follow us on YouTube. Please rate and review us on iTunes. And thank you for listening. Have a great day. Hey, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Extra Features Podcast. Today, I have a fabulous guest whose name I'm going to attempt to pronounce. Kays Al-Atrakchi. I know I'm close. Oh, he says I'm close.
So close. You're so
close. But his film Everbliss Inn, I can say it, and it's really good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So how do you feel when you're going to win an Academy Award and nobody's going to be able to say that?
I don't know, but you should see the way that I've got my name, especially my last name, kind of misspelled all sorts of creative ways. So I've just learned to embrace it. That's all. That's all you can do.
There's nothing you could do. I always like to start off, since I do a lot of horror stuff. Why horror?
Why horror? I think horror is like the roller coaster of movies, right? It's like everybody knows what's coming. Everybody knows the rides are similar. And yet, everybody wants to try that new one. And there's always something very exciting about I don't know, just trying something different yet familiar. And that's what I love about it. It's just this kind of familiarity, and yet how can I surprise people within that familiarity?
Cool. So did you have problems finding your couple? Were you happy with this couple, or did you try a few couples?
I am thrilled. I'm thrilled with the cast. I mean, I lucked out so much on finding the right cast for this project. I did a really extensive search. I think we ended up auditioning about 500 different people, if you can believe it or not.
Hold on, for all three parts?
For all three parts, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which is a lot. It's a lot.
There's a lot of people you have to look at, but
right. Well, I mean, thankfully this was during COVID, so everything was happening on video remotely, so that helped a lot. And yes, go ahead.
I definitely would say your in organizer is spot on.
Yes, Diane, she's fantastic.
Yes,
she is. Actually, when you go through auditions, a lot of times, you're kind of hoping, when I see that actor that is going to be perfect, I'll know, right? And sometimes you're doing your auditions and you're like, oh my God, I haven't seen anybody that's quite selling me. And you're waiting, and you're just kind of hoping for the next person to kind of blow your mind. And with Diane, it was the exact opposite. She was the very first audition that I saw, and I was like, this is her. She's the character. There's nobody else, so that's a first for me.
So let's start right at the beginning. You introduced me to some lovely music to start off your short with, to get me kind of in the mood.
Thank you.
Happy-go-lucky. And I will tell the viewers listening, you don't tell me anything about what's going on.
No, I mean, I try to just kind of ease you into the story, I mean, that's the way I want to enjoy my movies. When I go see a movie in the theater, I try to stay away from the trailers. I don't want to know anything about it. I just want to take me on a journey.
Well, I'll let the people in a secret. You sent me a write-up, but I didn't read it until after I watched the film. So I will be totally honest. I like to go into films cold, same way you do. So I like your drone shot right after the beginning. I thought that was really nice. I like the way it came down. I like the way it came up. But that's the only time you ever used a drone, unless you used it over the lake. I wasn't sure, but I don't think so.
No, I mean, that's the only time. I kind of wanted this. I kind of wanted to start out with this kind of brain twisting sort of thing that happens, because we're outside the car and we're kind of pulling out, and we see the car in the middle of this forest, and then somehow, some way, through some weird space-time kind of warp, we end up inside the car's GPS, right? And then we pull out of the screen, and all of a sudden we're inside the car. And that's kind of something that I thought, that could be kind of cool. I've never seen that
I think
before.
it is cool. I like how, boom, could you kind of bring me down like a space alien beam, right? And I'm like, boom, I look at a phone, and boom, I'm in the car. I'm like, that works. Right. And I mean, obviously you're CGIing the phone. I'll give you that. I did notice the CGI. That doesn't seem to go away, but that's okay.
Thank you so much.
Let's discuss at the beginning, shooting in the car.
Yes.
Do you have a camera on the dash or are you in the back? Because I don't think you are. I think there's something on the front.
So we did something a little crazy. And like the reason why, like, okay, when you're shooting a car and you're trying to do like green screen sometimes, or you're trying to do like this thing that's called like poor man's process, where you're like not really showing the outside. And to me, it always kind of looks just not right. It always kind
Mm-hmm.
of ends up looking kind of fake and weird, and it's very difficult to pull it off. So we discussed this with a cinematographer, and we both felt like we got to shoot this in the car for real. So what we ended up doing is renting one of those U-Haul um trailers that like if you have like a truck or something and you still need to bring the car with you, you just kind of load up the car on
Yes.
that thing, so that the actors didn't really have to like drive for real. And what we ended up doing is just like mounting the cameras. We had like three cameras. We didn't really have that much time. So we had like three cameras mounted on the dashboard outside, like outside the windshield. One was pointed at Rachel, one was pointed at Julian, and one was pointed like at both of them at the same time. And then we had like so I was in the truck that was actually pulling the trailer, along along with the DP, along with my first AD. And I was like looking at one of those little like this little monitor, this little wireless monitors that would like kind of like keep going out, because like the signal is what it is. And that's how we shot it. I mean, and we just kind of pulled the actors along and just told them, okay, go through your lines. And I would just kind of, every once in a while we would pull off the side of the road, and I would just kind of run back to them and like kind of talk to them from outside the window and say, hey, like next time, try this or
Yeah.
whatever. But it worked. I mean, you just kind of it kind of worked. So I'm very happy about that.
I thought your script writing was it felt real. Like it really felt like a conversation a couple would have. And I thought it was really good. So does that come from personal experience or just you're an excellent scriptwriter?
Well, I mean, I have to like share. So my wife is a screenwriter, and we basically co-wrote it together. And I think like the difference between my style of writing is and her style of writing is that like I'm a little bit more of the kind of big picture story sort of person, that's like, oh, like I want to see this, I want to see that, and this is what's going to happen. And she's a little bit more focused on the characters and their motivations, and just kind of trying to make them feel human. And I think she played like a really, really huge role in making it all work. So I can't take full credit for that.
I we do eventually make it to a place called the Everbliss Inn. I
That
want
is
to know
correct.
where's the name come from? Is it pulled from something I missed? Because I did think about it and I could not think of anything.
In the movie, you mean, or
Yes.
like just from outside the movie?
Is
Well,
it
I mean,
from
like
real life? Is there a real Everbliss Inn? Did you just like the name? I was like, I can't think of if you pulled it from another movie. I was thinking maybe.
like nowadays I would probably just like use Chat GPT and say like, give me a bunch of like cool
Yes.
sounding. What I ended up doing is I did a research online on Google just to kind of like see like what are typical um uh like bed and breakfast sort of names. And then what I ended up doing is every once in a while I would see something that would sound kind of cool, and I would be like, oh, like I like this word that they're using, but I don't like the second word. So and I would just kind of combine it all together until like it until I came up with like Everbliss Inn, I guess.
Oh, I was just thinking, going, okay. Now we finally get to the inn. I'm not going to
Yes.
ruin everything, people. I'm just going to lead them a bit. I want to discuss where is this inn? Obviously, it's a real place.
It's a real place. I mean, we're totally lucked out. This is about an hour north of Atlanta. This was shot in Georgia. So there's this beautiful state park and this big lake. I think it's called the Alatoona Lake. and basically I was working with like two really wonderful line producers that were, you know, Atlanta natives, and they looked up and down for like the ideal place, and it was so hard to find. And I was very, very open and honest from the beginning of the project, and I said, you know, like, if we don't have the right house for this, we don't have a movie.
That is
And
correct.
you know, and thankfully we found a great place. So
So is the lake really behind the house? Because you play with the
no,
lake at times with CGI. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask.
the lake is not behind the house,
I didn't think so.
unfortunately. Like, you know, like the house, the lake is actually like across the street from the house,
Okay.
but it's on the opposite side. It's nearby. So I mean, that was nice because we could shoot in the lake, and we didn't have to like kind of, you know, like drive somewhere else. But the lake was not where you see it in the movie. That was like a bit of a sleight of hand of me
It
trying to
looked
kind of
like
figure
it
out.
to me. I had to call you out on that one. I'm like, I don't think it's there, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Okay. I'll give you two options. We can either do set design or discuss clothes. Which one would you like to do first?
Uh, I think like whichever one you prefer. I'm your guest, so just
Okay. I want to discuss the clothes. When we walk in, they're all wearing very bright clothes, I noticed.
yes,
The host is wearing bright clothes, and as the film progresses, things start to change. Ever
yeah.
so slightly, I noticed that.
That is
Now, I
that is
presume that
awesome.
was,
Thank you.
and I'm supposed to notice that, I presume. And then we get to the end, I'm like, oh, okay, everything has changed. So, am I supposed to assume? I hate to say House of Usher, but I really felt I was watching a House of Usher decline.
There was definitely that in mind. I was working with a really wonderful custom designer, Blessed Palmer. Um, and that was one of the things that we talked about from the very beginning. We're like, hey, you know, like the couple is entering a bit of like this alternate dimension of sorts, and little by little, what we wanted to do is to kind of have like this subtle shift where you know, they start out colorful, and then at some point when the couple arrives at the Everbliss Inn, and I don't know if I'm supposed to like give away spoilers or not
It's
to
up
to
to
your
you. It's
audience.
going out.
Okay.
So I've been very careful not to.
Okay. Well, I mean, basically, without giving too much away, what tends to happen is that like once they arrive, they have like somewhat different reactions to the place,
Correct.
right?
That's fair.
So you know, the wife is very enthused and just like very attracted to the surroundings. The husband is a little bit more lukewarm and kind of feels like it's a little bit creepy, you know. So from the moment that they arrive, I discussed with Blessed. I said, let's have the costumes change. Like, so all of a sudden they start kind of drifting a little bit
Yes,
apart
definitely.
from one another. So and then eventually, but yeah, so like, you know, at first he's wearing like a very colorful shirt, and then by the time we get like to, I guess it's like the third day that they're in there, he's wearing like this very, very desaturated like gray
Yes,
shirt, for instance.
okay. I would say your film is so contingent on us buying into Gwen. If we don't buy
Yes.
into Gwen early, I mean,
Yeah.
her facial structure sells your film for me. The way
Thank
she
you.
looks, constantly making faces. And I'm not saying faces like funny faces, just enough that you know something's off. Now, how much did you work with her on that?
I mean, I have this belief as a director that if you find the right cast, you know, then you're just, as a director, you're kind of sort of working on fine tuning the performances, but you're not really creating the performances. The cast is creating the performances. So to me, like the big challenge is the casting. You know, to me, casting is like vital because you have to find like the actors that really truly inhabit these characters. So Diane Warman, who plays Gwendolyn, as I said, like, I mean, she was the first person that I
Right.
auditioned, and I just thought she's just perfect in this role.
Okay.
And
I'm gonna
yeah, so at that point, it was just like it was just a matter of like just kind of fine-tuning things, but she really brought a lot of that character. I think she just kind of instinctively knew what the character was, which is fantastic.
Okay. I'm going to make a little note for everybody at the 1845 mark of your short. I even wrote down the time because I had to pause it to check this out.
Yes.
There's a scene when the couple comes through a doorway and Gwen is standing behind them.
Yes.
And she doesn't move. She literally does not move. And I want to ask, was that an actor's choice or did you tell her not to move? Because it was beyond creepy as hell for me that I had to watch it twice to see going, what is going on here? Because it was bizarre. She literally doesn't move.
See, that was a very specific choice on my part to just kind of have her stand there. I see Gwendolyn's character is a little bit of the puppet master.
Oh, 100%.
You know, and because of that, she's a little bit like the cat that's kind of toying with the mouse, you know, that Julian portrays in the movie. So she's like a bit of a spectator because she's like fully in control by that point. And I didn't think it was necessary for her to really interact or even move. All she had to do is just kind of look on, you know. She's just saying, look at how futile this guy is trying. Like, you know, it's too late. Like, you know, but by that point in the film, he's completely out of control. And she's like totally in control.
Okay. Now, I want to go into the house a bit more because I said I was going to talk set design. So we're going to start set design. How much did you add to the house? Obviously, I want to discuss the painting of the picture, but I want to leave that for next, just so you know. Did you do anything to the house? I mean, did you add a lot to the house or no?
Not a huge amount. I mean, we were working with a production designer, and we discussed about like removing anything from, you know, the interior that would kind of give away that it's a modern house, because, you know, this was an actual working bed and breakfast that we shot in. Yes, it was.
It does not look like a modern house at all in any way.
Well, that's definitely you know, that's definitely a compliment to the production designer on this film, because as a modern bed and breakfast, you know, like then they have like, you know, internet information, you know, like here's like how you log into the internet, here's the password. They have to have like special signs, like, you know, for emergencies, hey, if there's a fire, you know, all this kind of stuff, you know. So a lot of it was just kind of removing some of these elements. And then the other nice thing about it is that this house was so richly decorated, you know, as we found it, that then it was just a matter of taking some elements from like maybe some other room, you know, say it's like, oh, we really like this, you know, this old photograph, or we really like this lamp, you know, let's bring that from this room that we're not shooting in into the room that we're shooting in. And but yeah, like, I mean, we were incredibly lucky to find a place because it basically came like that.
Yeah, I hope I'm not ruining anything. You have a painted picture on the wall. I think it's a real picture. I was trying to figure it out. Is it CGI'd or real? I could not figure it out.
Okay, so the painting obviously plays like, you know, a big role in the story. And
I'm kind of leaving it at that. I think I've done enough.
So we once again, my Christina, my wife, who helped co-write the script, she's also a painter.
So okay, so they're all real, because I thought they were real.
Okay, so here's the catch. So the catch is that when we were shooting, we didn't have the painting.
So it's added in.
So it's added in, yes. So what we did is like we simply framed like just a green, like a piece of green cardboard, you know, that then we can composite, you know, the painting after the fact. And so what she ended up doing is, you know, because at first I thought, oh, maybe we can take like some photograph from, you know, some still from the movie, and you can kind of trace that and stuff like that. And she instead insisted on just kind of doing it by hand from scratch. So she did paint a real painting that then we scanned it in and then we composited it with the
Yeah, because
shot
I
inside
could
the
not
frame.
figure it out because it looks CGI'd, but the way I'm like, it looks real though to me. Okay.
Thank you. That's a big compliment. Thank you.
Okay. Hold on. Now I gotta read my notes for a second. Oh, when Jackson walks outside the house at one point, you
Yes.
suddenly put a red light appears over his head very briefly in the first one, and
Mhm.
it's maybe on for I would say 0.5 of a second. It's like boom on, and then you play a game with me and bring it back for a longer second.
Right. Right.
Did so I thought that was pretty cute because if you're not paying attention to the short, you would totally miss that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's so to me, like the whole mystery of this inn is on the second floor.
Oh, we know
And
that.
right. And because of that, I thought, okay, I was working on that shot, I was working with the editor for this film, Federico, who is a very, very talented editor. And I was like kind of trying to like kind of make this moment feel that much creepier and that much kind of more unsettling, but at the same time to do it like in a subtle way, right? Because that's what I like. I like to kind of see things that maybe you notice out of the corner of your eye that you're not even fully aware. And
Well, you
yeah, and that's what we decided to do, and it made a lot of sense.
okay, and your night shot at this point, where just so everybody knows we're outside, which I've kind of said. Are you
Yes.
using a natural lighting? Because it did look like there was a little bit of lighting seeking through. So if you're using a light, it's very subtle.
I tell you, here's an interesting little tidbit about shooting that scene on the outside. It was a nighttime, and we were using this Sony camera that has like a very, very, very good low light sensitivity, right? And this thing basically sees like in the dark, like
Okay.
it's almost like now obviously like we wanted like a little bit of light on his face. We wanted to like kind of cast something. So what I ended up doing is I as we were shooting and I was I was there directing. It was me, like Chris Watkins, the DP, and Julian, the actor. And basically Chris said it would be nice to like kind of get a little bit of light on his face to give him a little bit more definition. And I simply took out my phone.
Ah,
I took out my cell phone and I was like, is this gonna work? And the camera was so sensitive that Chris said, "Oh, but like bring the brightness down as low as possible because otherwise it's way too bright." If you can imagine that. And that's what we used. We lit it with a cell phone, and that was enough.
see, I was paying attention.
You definitely are.
Um, there's a scene about 10 minutes from here that involves heading into a bush. I'll leave it at that. So I'm really not ruining anything, but you know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
How far did you go into the bush? Because I found the scene was very cut quickly. So is there a longer take of that shot, or you couldn't show me a longer take for due to you didn't want to go in further?
In like we everything that you see is in some cases like it's like right down to the frame to where like we were gonna yell cut or
Okay.
something. So I mean we didn't shoot very long and we didn't have like that much time to do like a lot of takes, and we didn't really we always want to be safe with the actors. We always want to be you know I'm always of the opinion of like just telling the actor, hey, this is what I would like to do, but then you go and do what you feel comfortable with. So what you see is basically as far as we felt like it was comfortable for the actor.
Okay. How cold was the water?
The weather was pretty chilly. It was we shot there. It was around this time. It was around like November.
Oh, Georgia, I don't
And
know how cold it gets in Georgia. It's usually not too
it
bad.
gets chilly. It gets remarkably chilly. I mean, it gets cold enough that I was, everybody was wearing like jackets.
Oh, okay.
And so what we did once again, like it's an issue of like kind of getting the actors to feel very comfortable with what they're being asked to do. And underneath, so Julian is going into the water, and what we did is we got a wetsuit um,
Ah,
that he was wearing underneath, but the wetsuit was not enough by itself because it was like that cold. So what we ended up doing is before he puts on the wetsuit, we had like a bucket of steaming water that that we were like kind of pouring on top of him and inside the suit so that we kind of keep him warm. And but I mean, he was a great sport about it. And I know that like, that warm water in the wetsuit was, only got him so far because we did a bunch of takes. He was in the water for like, I would say like almost an hour. And
wow.
yeah, and because of that, I think that I'm sure he got chilly, and we were like very considerate as far as, just having like a little heater and towels, and so that as soon as we were done, he could, get out, get himself dried off, and and hopefully not catch a cold.
Okay. Near the very end of the film,
Yeah.
there's two people talking. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yes.
And they state, now you know the whole story, and then they sort of do their thing.
Yes.
I was annoyed at this point that I needed to know the full story. Did I
It's
miss it, or you just didn't want to give it to me?
you didn't miss it. It's I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of the nature of, doing something that's, not a feature length
Yeah,
project.
I needed like another 5 minutes with these people. Like I wanted that 5 minutes. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
I was like, I wanted the reveal.
Right.
Like
We're
I,
we're
I
we're
mean,
talking to a production company about like possibly turning this into a feature film.
okay, then that's
And
fine. Then I'll get my reveal.
yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I would love nothing better because there's so much. Christina and I like worked on this whole mythology about the inn, all these kind of elements that unfortunately we just didn't really have the opportunity to tell within like this, it's
I know you have a
almost
time
like half an
constraint.
hour. Yeah. Yeah. But I would love to. I mean, there's so much. There's a whole backstory to Gwendolyn. There's a whole backstory to the inn. There's this bigger world that I would love to tell people about it. So I hope I get a chance to do it.
And how is working with CGI? Because it is throughout this film. There's color touches. There's
Yeah.
weather added.
I mean, I have a visual effects background,
Okay.
and it helps tremendously for me to be able to shoot something in a way that I know I'm going to be able to get away with something or not. Um, so like it's kind of funny because when I'm not directing, I am actually doing visual effects for other people, and
Aha.
and a lot of times I'm always dealing with projects where they shot something, they didn't really have a visual effects person on set, and they come to me and they say, hey, this is what we'd like to do, and I look at it and I'm like, well, I don't know if we can get there just because of the fact that it was shot not with that in mind. So I think that's one of the benefits that I have personally, is just to be able to shoot something and say, okay, I know I'm gonna want to do this in post, you know. And Chris and I talked a lot about how to shoot certain things so that I'd be able to get away with doing the CG, doing some of the visual effects in post, and not have it look terrible. Hopefully,
Okay. I'm gonna might get in trouble for this last question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway.
sure, go
Was The
for it.
Shining a big influence for this film?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I grew up on The Shining. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I mean, one of the things that I love about The Shining is the atmosphere. Like the thing that I love about The Shining is that if you really think about it, it doesn't really show that much. It
Nope.
really doesn't. It's all about like mood. It's all about like atmosphere and like letting the music and sometimes just the sound just kind of create this tension, and that's exactly what I wanted. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Three things to go, and then you're out of here. Your favorite film?
My favorite film, it literally changes, like, because every once in a while I'll see something and I'm like, oh, that's my new favorite film. I mean, from a horror standpoint, I would have to say The Shining once again, because
There you
I
go.
just love
That's
the
fine.
way it builds tension with hardly anything.
One film you would recommend to people to watch they don't usually have heard of?
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, okay. I mean, does YouTube count?
Absolutely.
All right. So there's this kid, I think he's like 16 or 17. He goes by the name Kane Pixels. And he does all these back rooms, like this liminal spaces type of videos on YouTube. And recently I watched it's like a three-part series. I think it's called like the oldest book or the oldest story, something like that. It's like it's the most recent videos that he has. And it's fascinating. And it just I mean, between the three videos, it's basically like a feature length worth of, you know, uh, like adventure that you go on, and it's just so brilliantly made, and it totally had me gripped, and I was like I was like freaking myself out. I was like scared out of my mind. And once
Cool.
again, it's all about like atmosphere, and it's like, the sound design plays a huge role in it. And I just found it to be like one of the most gripping things I've seen in a long time. So definitely look it up.
Last question. What's
Yes.
one film you should have seen by now, but still haven't got to it?
I'm ashamed of saying this, but The Godfather.
Oh
I've
God!
I,
Wow.
I've never seen The Godfather. I know. I'm ashamed.
Okay.
I just
Uh,
admitted it to a whole bunch of people.
you did. Before I let you go, tell everybody where they can find your stuff.
Okay, so let's see. Like Everbliss right now we're doing like the festival. And of course, like Horror on Sea is the next festival that we're playing. As far as me as a director, they can find me on Instagram at Kays, Kays filmmaker. That's my Instagram handle. And if they want to check out my website, it's moviesbykays.com.
Oh, I like it. Okay. Well, thank you for your time and have a great evening.
Thank you so much. You have a great evening as well.